About 252 million years ago, when Earth was going through the Paleozoic era, there was a volcanic mountain in present-day Siberia. Eruptions released tons of lava and toxic gases. They were flying in the sky. The scene was something like this. On one side, the herbivorous Lystrosaurs were fighting for every breath they took. On the other hand, creatures like Claudiosaurus considered the ocean their own territory. Before swallowing every drop of water, thousands outside were thinking. Both terrestrial and aquatic beings had realized their end was near. It has arrived, and what was feared has happened. All were wiped out in a mass extinction event called the Great Dying, where at least 90% of Earth's species became extinct. But it's a law of nature that where one species perishes, another finds its roots on the other side. And during this same period, the extinction of some leads to the emergence of new kinds of creatures. A chance. I'm talking about doing something significant. The beloved creatures are none other than our dinosaurs. In fact, according to some estimates, when the Great Dying occurred, it took about 10 million years for the Earth to recover from that situation. This is more than 4 million years longer than the time it took for us to evolve from monkeys. And the reason for this is the extinction event that happened then. Greenhouse gases are causing Earth to warm up. The temperature has risen significantly. It is said that since the first organism emerged on Earth, this has been the hottest period so far. And because of this, species in lakes, backwaters and marshy areas have begun to started going extinct. And due to the rapid increase in temperatures, the climate also became hot and dry. To avoid such climate, long trees and plants adapt themselves to survive in warm and dry environments. They began to evolve in such cone-shaped tall conifers, so that their water loss is minimized. And due to this evolution of plants, after sufficient time, life flourished on Earth once again like a paradise. First of all, in this paradise, we small mammals started crawling. Like the synapsids predecessors, pelycosaurs, and the carnivorous predecessors of dinosaurs, the diapsids, archosaurs, and then in the rivers and streams of Pangaea, the ancestors of frogs began to thrive. List amphibians, which are mostly seen swimming in fresh water. And that's because back then, the temnospondyls ruled the salty seas. Now, if looked upon, their appearance was indeed like that of a crocodile, but their nature was also. But he was macho indeed, meaning whatever creature you see, just munch on it, and thus for deep seeds and synapsids, there was only one best way to grow on the ground. Stay put and stay right there. They tried to dominate each other. Now, even if the apsids were the predators and synapsids were their prey, synapsids still ruled Pangaea at that time, because their size gap was significantly larger compared to deposits. But unfortunately, the reign of synapsids here did not last long. Because the temperature of the Earth changes all the time, we can't get it directly from the pelican source and extract it gradually. But the amphibious archosaurs, they saw a new path in adjusting themselves to the changing temperature. Not evolutionary trash. Thermoregulation happened in such a way that their skin was specifically redesigned to absorb and emit heat according to the surrounding temperature. And because of this, they regulate their body heat. They survive in hot temperatures too. Along with these, in comparison to Pelycosaurus, you will go on about the respiratory system, digestive system, and movement of Archosaurus. Systems also evolved rapidly with each generation. And now Archosaurs had evolved, but the real problem started after their evolution. Because their own cousins, the aquatic Ichthyosaurs, had already become larger in size. They tend to eat, even began to snatch the mouths of temnospondyls and archosaurs. And what followed was a drastic decline in the number of temnospondyls, and Ichthyosaurus emerged as the new dominant genus of the sea. To find oneself preyed upon by the very Ichthyosaurus, and a fate worse than this befell terrestrial species, as 70% of species, due to becoming extinct, their presence as prey in China diminished and predators increased. Now in this situation, the Archosaurs had only one choice. Somehow, before the other competitors, snatching the prey was necessary, and of course, first for this, members of the Archosaurus family needed speed. To adapt to which, they started experiencing changes. The bones in their legs, especially the tibia, fibula and astragalus bone, which helped them in crawling, is diffused in such a way and provide extra strength. Which led to, now they started walking like this. In the fight, their neck also became flexible and appeared S-shaped. This allowed them to see their prey without bending their bodies and to maintain their center of gravity using their necks. And when conditions became normal, their agility in hunting makes the prey scarce once again. So scarce that some ark had to graze on grass and slowly became omnivorous in their versus converse. Now these omnivores complete their own ark sources. They became so different from their ancestors that scientists later had to categorize them into two categories: dinosaurs, ancestors, and both Nithodira and crocs. The earth was gradually becoming calm. Volcanic activities became less frequent. Carbon dioxide levels were also decreasing. Pangaea gradually starts to take the shape of modern continents. Wild plants were engaged in increasing their height and the expansion of coniferous forests. Marine life was focused on increasing its quantity and diversity. Seasons were taking their correct shape again, with rain happening for 9 months every year. And because of this, both vegetation and life have rapidly boosted. Now, some omnivores and nectoherbivores became so dependent on this flourishing nutritious vegetation that they turned entirely herbivorous. This led to their teeth first adapting to chew ferns and leaves. So that they could properly chew the grass, digesting fern leaves took a lot of time. And so their stomachs and intestines grew larger. And the peculiar way to support the stomach. The pubic bone rearranged itself in a way that looks like the pubic bone of today's birds. Meanwhile, omnivorous lizards with hips relied on both grazing and hunting, which is why their bones evolved for faster mobility, adapting in such a way. These two families had now become full-fledged dinosaurs. But their structures and genetics underwent so many changes that scientists had to separate the Agin and Nithodira families. They had to divide into groups. First, the hip ones like herbivore birds and Nitoshiansu. Omnivorous lizards go the same way. Initially, the number of terrestrial animals was higher, but by the late Triassic period, the number of marine animals began to increase. Because their food, plants and trees, was growing rapidly, which was due to Earth's warmth. During the Mesozoic era, diets of terrestrial animals were different as pure sciences were not available at that time, leading to a natural selection pressure on the environment, which makes many species of saurians completely herbivorous, forced into war. And by the end of the late Triassic period, around 200 million years ago, most saurians split into two groups again. The herbivorous saurians were the sauropods and the carnivorous saurians were the theropods. Now these were like T-Rex and velociraptors. Theropods' competition seemed less like sauropods and the beginning of nithishuropods. They begin to hunt it. But see, evolution was not going to be limited to just this. Nature wanted to further refine the abilities of living beings to increase their chances of survival. And about 230 million years ago, some of these terrestrial dinosaurs started doing something over and over again. Once upon a time, there was an evil. They wanted to increase it. And so here arose Earth's first flying creature, the pterosaur. Like the rest of the dinosaurs, these two weren't very big in their early years, at most as big as a human. But then eventually, their size was also huge. When he spreads his punk, so they look closely, dead, as big as full-size school buses take lives. Situations like these progressed due to the continuous evolution of dinosaurs surrounding us. That all the vegetarian snapsites that somehow managed to survive are now finding it hard to live. Herbivore dinosaurs would eat plants on the ground. So to avoid danger from bipedal dinosaurs, they would go to the taller trees. So, the vegetarian dinosaurs, there weren't just leaves for them to nibble on. And despite all this, if they just climb up and sit on the bus, the pterosaur was feeding them to its chicks. This means there were mostly synapsids everywhere. But then synapsids found a new way to save their lives. They thought the best way to avoid these dinosaurs as they keep growing themselves is to grow themselves in comparison. This way, we won't even be visible, and consequently, no one will hunt us. So to do that, 225 million years ago, some species of synapsids became nocturnal insect hunters known as Mammaliformes. I was then 3. And this presents a problem. Everything was so smooth. Dinosaurs ruled the entire Earth. But then something happened that led to another mass extinction, starting to do so. This takes us back about 201 million years ago, during the Triassic period. Earth once again initiated a new mass extinction event, Pangaea, which gradually dissipated throughout the Triassic period. He was staying sharp. The cracking suddenly increased. Provenance Atlantic magmatic provenance. This region was actually a junction of several large tectonic plates at that time and had become so fragile that it could burst any second. And in the end, what was feared happened. History was repeating itself as Pangaea Camp region started breaking apart rapidly. Volcanic eruptions intensified and the air filled with toxic gases once again poisoned the planet's climate. When water vaporized by lava is known as a blessing, falls back on. So it was these toxic gases that together with the debris turned rivers and oceans acidic. The situation had become such. There was no longer fresh air to breathe, and they could not even drink. Before our eyes, dinosaurs, archosaurs, flying pterosaurs, and small mammaliforms were left behind. Most creatures on Earth evolved once again. Only those who were distant from the center of Pangaea at that moment survived. Away from it, when things calmed down, eventually in this camp region, the cracks that formed slowly allowed the surrounding seawater to seep in. Volcanic eruptions continued for the next few million years, and so began the Jurassic period. It's the same for the pain. The bigger well-known dinosaurs like Stegosaurus and Brachiosaurus appeared walking for the first time. But more on that in the next video, titled Dinosaur the Rain. Basically, at that time, they had abilities to twist their tail faster than the speed of sound and shatter someone's spine. If you like this video, don't forget to hit a like, subscribe to Get's NFLi Science channel, and press the bell notification. Make sure you don't miss any updates of our videos, especially this series. And as always, stay curious, keep learning, and keep watching.